Many are attracted to Bitcoin due to its independence and pseudo-anonymity. But its convenience of use, speed, and fees may not be as pleasing as one would like. In this article, we outline the most common pros and cons of Bitcoin. Bitcoin pros and cons. The main advantage of using Bitcoin is that it is both digital money and the payment network. Bitcoin's blockchain cannot function without BTC, and vice versa. Such a system can operate without any middlemen, government officials, monetary economists, and other intermediaries or regulators. Essentially, Bitcoin is the first successful implementation of global peer-to-peer cash that lets everyone store and exchange value with others, no matter who or where they are. However, Bitcoin does have regulatory oversight and the convenience of traditional financial instruments. Bitcoin price is quite volatile, and that is unlikely to change in the near term. Besides, the network is still being developed and does not match the efficiency and ease of use offered by banks and related financial services. Bitcoin pros. Here are the most commonly brought up Bitcoin advantages. Bitcoin is the most open financial system to date. You can make payments with Bitcoins 24/7 all over the world, even where there's no banking system. International money transfers with Bitcoins can be faster and cheaper than with traditional banking and services. Bitcoin is the only asset ever created that cannot be seized from you by force if taken proper precautions. Besides, BTC transactions are uncensorable, so no one can stop you from conducting transactions. Bitcoin is pseudonymous, and anyone can open its wallet via the internet without any verification or credit history. It is especially beneficial in underbanked regions and third world countries where most people struggle to get access to money. You can spend Bitcoins in the same ways you spend traditional digital money, from a desktop computer, a mobile phone, or a debit card. Bitcoin cons. The most commonly mentioned Bitcoin cons include little to none regulatory oversight when things go south. Despite attempts to enable offline Bitcoin payments, use of the currency still largely depends on internet availability. As Bitcoin is still in development, the transaction speed and fees tend to vary depending on mining efficiency and network congestion. Converting Bitcoins into fiat incurs fees which are often costly. Not every shop or service provider accepts Bitcoins. The number is growing, though. Bitcoin transactions are immutable, meaning that once the money leaves your wallet, there is no way to get them back. Although many reputation management tools are being developed, buyer's protection is not the thing with Bitcoin yet. Conversely, it can benefit merchants since accepting BTC eliminates the opportunity of fraudulent chargebacks. Most people are not ready to take full responsibility for their assets and could not manage their private keys securely. Many private Bitcoin keys have been lost beyond recovery, thus contribution to Bitcoin's deflation and appreciation in value. Learning all the existing ins and outs of the Bitcoin ecosystem presents a steep learning curve. The user interface in most Bitcoin apps is still not foolproof, and the network is not ready for serving everyone in the world. Securing Bitcoin requires basic cybersecurity knowledge and awareness. While the network is virtually unhackable, organizations and individual users are. The core ideology of Bitcoin goes against the most powerful institutions, governments, politics, banks, regulators, and censorship, and is likely to meet much resistance before these players can tolerate or approve it. These are the most commonly brought up advantages and disadvantages, pros and cons, of Bitcoin. As you can see, the revolutionary technology behind Bitcoin doesn't come without trade-offs. For every advantage, there is a considerable disadvantage, too. Despite that, Bitcoin is an evolving system which doesn't stand still. Its open-source developer community is actively seeking for improved solutions. Hopefully, this article has made things clearer for you and sparked further interest in cryptocurrencies and traditional finance. Always do your due diligence when it comes to sensitive matters like money and investing. Current understanding and use of Bitcoin as a currency is not straightforward. More importantly, despite little awareness regarding Bitcoin in the public, the currency has registered exponential growth within half a decade. 1. Its progressive development and potential advantages as a global currency has outdone any other national currency in history. This explains why in conventional use, Bitcoin is a virtue gold mine. Bitcoins present an extremely rewarding, profitable, and reliable investment, both in terms of income generation and in reducing operational expenditure. This article acknowledges that the technical details of Bitcoin technology may be irrelevant from the perspective of investors and/or businesspersons. The brief discussion excludes the focus on the cryptocurrency model, the cryptography mathematical model, the use of blockchain technologies, which may not be as important as the realization of the potential benefits of a Bitcoin wallet. As such, the article seeks to exclusively review the realistic user-based advantages of using Bitcoin as a currency. Before listing the potential advantages, however, it is important to provide a succinct history of the currency. Above the technical profile, the question of how one may benefit from using the Bitcoin currency remains. In other words, why should you invest in the Bitcoin currency? Here are 4 reasons that define Bitcoin as a currency of tomorrow, and its relevance in a globalized future. 1. Absence of a central authority and jurisdictional regulation. Transactions in Bitcoin are based on a consensus network where peers send and receive a purely digital currency. There is not a nation, agency, or individual who owns and controls the Bitcoin currency. This means that unlike contemporary national currencies, Bitcoin is a payment system empowered and defined by its users, and thus it lacks a central authority in charge of its circulation. Further, Bitcoin transactions do not require or facilitate intermediaries, middlemen, such as banks, in the contemporary financial world. The absence of any central authority thus gives total and absolute control to Bitcoin users globally, regardless of their jurisdiction or residence, and qualifies the currency with unlimited exchange freedom. Bitcoin transactions are feasible anytime, from anywhere, between anybody, and without rules and regulations that are common with modern bureaucracy. This defines the infinite potential for an investor or a businessperson for never having to observe the day or time where weekends of during night time of transaction, as well as peer location or personal identity of peers you transact with. In the words of Satoshi Nakamoto, Bitcoins can be transported over a communications channel to a global user. 2. Capitalization on an anonymous virtual identity. To begin with, Bitcoin omits and does not require personal information or identity in any transaction. Transactions do not rely on the names of sellers and/or buyers, and they do not even record personal addresses. Each user has a unique wallet ID, which constitutes their virtual identity. Furthermore, Bitcoin eliminates any risks when transacting with merchants or customers. Bitcoin transactions come with a high level of security because they are Secure from chargebacks and fraudulent losses. Ledger systemized irreversible, accounted for and recorded in a public log based on unique users. Wallet ID based on user agreements, making PCI compliance for all transactions irrelevant. Governments and organizations have risen up, severely opposing this benefit of a Bitcoin currency, arguing against potential abuse. Assorted interests have pointed out the likelihood of Bitcoin usage in drug trafficking and illicit commerce. 3. In the meantime, businesses are protected and galvanized regardless of the limited personal identity required. Given that Bitcoin is a digital currency that has no legal tender status ascribed to any nation or any jurisdiction, all transactions are above tax liability. In what is emerging as a form of modernized finance, Bitcoin is still a gold mine. 4. No government in the world currently taxes any capital gain, income, or payroll limits recorded on Bitcoin. The practicality of that single fact not only consolidates Bitcoin as a global currency, but also offers infinite potential for investors and businesspersons to benefit from the no-tax transactions. Bitcoin is not perfect, but it does have certain pluses that are not available with physical currencies and are very beneficial to users. Advantages of Bitcoin payment ease. Using Bitcoin, it is possible to send or receive money anywhere on the planet anytime, night or day. That is a huge advantage. The usual limitations don't exist when transferring money across the world. Having to take into account festivals and holidays, for instance, is not part of the equation. You are the only one in charge of your money. There is no controlling authority in the Bitcoin system. Security, control issues. Bitcoin is a safe network as users are in control of their transactions. It is not possible for traders to charge the consumer extra fees and have it go unnoticed. Any extra fees need to be discussed with the consumer first. It is not necessary to supply personal information when making payments in Bitcoin. The transaction can be finalized without this information. It is not possible for people to see your personal information, which makes Bitcoin safe from identity theft. Your money is safe with Bitcoin owing to Bitcoin's backup procedure. Transparency. All completed transactions are accessible to everyone, but personal information is not available. Your public address is what is viewable. Your personal information is not. Because of the Bitcoin blockchain, anyone can verify transactions at any time. The system cannot be tampered with by anyone or any organization because Bitcoin is cryptographically secured. Fees and charges. At the present time, there are no, or very limited, fees connected with Bitcoin payments. In order to get the transaction processed quicker, users might introduce fees. The higher the fee, the quicker it will move within the network. It will get prioritized. The use of digital currency exchanges that convert bitcoins into fiat currency, legal tender, backed by the government that issued it, is helpful to traders. Bitcoin service charges and fees are usually much less than those of PayPal and credit cards. Less risks for traders. It is not possible to reverse a Bitcoin transaction. These transactions are secure and do not contain personal information. It is, therefore, safer in instances where fraud may occur. It is possible to trade even where levels of fraud and crime may be high. This is due to the Bitcoin blockchain, or public ledger, which makes cheating very difficult. The above are the basic advantages. There are 3 particular disadvantages that need to be looked at. It is important to know both the pros and cons and what to expect from Bitcoin.